We are almost 24 hours removed from the Gophers' historic blowout win over Northwestern State, 66-0. So let's talk about some takeaways here. Right off the bat, I would say a casual conversation after this game, and it definitely could be the loud minority in this discussion is why play this game? Why does this matter? This happens every year in college football. The Gophers are just not typically good enough to boat race an FCS team. We saw it this week with Florida State destroyed East Texas A&M. Um, it's been a thing in college football since FCS has existed. It kind of keeps the free market of the sport going. Minnesota paid Northwestern State $500K for this game, and Northwestern State's going to use that money to keep their athletic program going. That's just kind of how things work. Um, no one's saying Northwestern State was a good team, but to say that like the Gophers were the first team to do this is just very like disingenuous and it's annoying. It happens every year, and if the Gophers won 30-15, people would have said, "Man, they stink. You can blow out Northwestern State." So you have to obviously take that with a grain of salt. It's there was no negatives from this game other than Darius Taylor's injury, but the Gophers took care of business. They used it as a glorified scrimmage, which it is what it was. But that's college football. Every team does this, not every year, but maybe once every other year they play an FCS team. That's just how it works. Um, College football doesn't have preseason. It's not FBS versus FCS week one every year, but this is essentially a glorified preseason game for the Gophers before a big tilt next week at Cal. So, I guess some more takeaways from the game. You obviously don't want to have too many big assumptions, but we saw a lot of the Gophers reserves in this game, obviously. As it pertains to the starters, I don't think there's any story bigger than Darius Taylor coming up with a hamstring injury. Um, that's clearly just what it was. You obviously don't want to speculate, but you have to really not understand the human body to not know that was a hamstring injury. He pulled up short in the first quarter, grabbing the back of his leg. The severity of the injury, we do not know, but he did not return. Will he play next week against Cal? PJ Fleck is notoriously incredibly close to the vest um, with injuries. So I would be very shocked if we knew anything before 2 hours before kickoff. That's when the final answer is going to come. Um, if you asked me to predict whether he's going to play or not, I would lean towards not. After the game, Fluck was asked about it. He said it doesn't seem too bad, which is really good. We got a really good positive diagnosis on that, so we'll see how the week goes as he goes through it. We weren't going to put him back in that game, that's for sure. Um, he did also kind of talk about. He had a long conversation with Taylor on the sideline. Talked about what that was, and he kind of said how bad he felt for Darius Taylor being hurt. So if it was a minor injury, I don't think he would have had that sentiment. I think he would have just said, "Hey, we got this game in check. He'll be back next week." Didn't get that vibe from what he said after the game. With that being said, though, the Gophers invested in their backfield this offseason. Marshall transfer AJ Turner, Washington transfer Cam Davis, redshirt freshman Fame Ejiboy coming back. And so does Darius Taylor raise this team's ceiling? Yes. Is him being out a huge detriment to their ceiling? I don't think so. Because we saw all three of those guys play in the first half, um, and Femi Edgeboy had 7 carries for 51 yards, 2 catches for 22 yards, and a receiving touchdown. AJ Turner had 6 carries for 33 yards, 1 touchdown, no catches. And Cam Davis had 2 carries, 13 yards, touchdown, 3 receptions for 40 yards. So, I think, if I had to guess, Taylor's not going to play against Cal. You have a bye week the week after, going cross country, late night kickoff. It's a long season. It's not a conference game. I could see the Gophers just being precautious. I'd love to be proven wrong. It's just we're not going to know an answer, so I think it's entirely fair to speculate because um, what else are you going to do? PJ Fleck's not going to give us any information. No one's going to give us any information. So, um, I think the Gophers will be fine, and I think they're going to use all 3 of those players. I think we've seen Davis. They like to use more as a receiver. I mean, he only had 2 carries in that game. And I think Edgeboy is definitely might have the highest ceiling. AJ Turner was obviously the highlight ad from the transfer portal. But man, Edgeboy continues to impress me. Impressed me in camp. Turner, we really haven't seen that home run ability yet that he had at Marshall last year. But I think all 3 guys have a unique skill set where using a 3-headed monster approach kind of makes up for the loss of Darius Taylor, in my opinion. So you obviously want your stars to play, but I don't think this is a disaster scenario for the Gophers if they go into an important game at Cal without Taylor. So that I think was the biggest storyline from the game. But some other takeaways. Uh, Drake Lindsay had a short day, but he had a great day. He was 8 of 9, 139 touchdown, rushing touchdown as well. It's exactly what you want to see from your QB against a inferior opponent. That 45-yard touchdown throw he had to Javon Tracy was beautiful. He can throw the deep ball. The Gophers are willing to let him sling it. Great day from him. And I guess as for the other starters, Coy Parrish did play it all over the field still, but obviously it was not as much because his day was cut short. He played only 4 offensive snaps. You obviously, I don't think want to look too far into that because it was a quick day. But he did have his longest reception as an offensive player. He had 24-yard catch. You could tell. I thought this was a game we might see him get into the end zone, or at least they try to get him in the end zone because it was a great opportunity to do that. You have this new toy, for lack of a better term, to use on offense. But he played 4 snaps at receiver, and he played 19 total defensive snaps, 10 at free safety, 6 at linebacker, 1 at outside corner, 1 at slot corner, 1 at strong safety, and then he had 8 plays as punt returner, 4 returns for 33 total yards. You could tell he's just antsy back there and wants to break one loose. Seemed like a game he might put up like a ridiculous stat line, but stay was cut short. Still played well. For all the sicko Gophers fans out there, or one other thing before I get into some of the younger underclassmen, Iowa transfer John Nestor is the real deal. He is a above average starting Big Ten corner. I had a lot of questions about the Gophers cornerback room heading into this year. Zaquan Bryan and Nestor are above average players at that position, and they both have multiple years of eligibility left. So that was something that it was not a guarantee heading into the year. Nestor nearly had a perfect PFF grade. But those are 2 solid corners, and I don't think it's really a huge question mark anymore at that position. Nestor, great find in the portal. And Gophers have a solid top 2 at that position with some solid depth behind them. So The cornerback question I think has been answered. It's obviously Buffalo and Northwestern State, but I don't think it's a liability. It's not a strength by any means, but it's not a liability that I thought there was a chance it could have been heading into the year. So, like I said, the sicko Gophers fans out there that want to talk um, some backups. Max Chickenjansky, QB2, another big storyline. Former walk-on from Stillwater High School, was probably more highly touted as a basketball player, but he decided to walk on to the Gophers, earned a scholarship. Now he's earned the QB2 role as a redshirt sophomore. Really cool story. His dad obviously played for the Gophers. I thought he looked really solid out there as backup quarterback. He's not as physically imposing as Drake Lindsay, obviously a little different of a game, but he's got some moxie and some confidence. He's got a little Baker Mayfield in him. Not saying he's as good of a player, but like he's got that gunslinger mentality a little bit. Um, that was a cool story. And true freshman Grant Washington, running back, had the quietest 20 carry, 126-yard performance I think you'll ever see. Obviously, that was exclusively in the second half as the Gophers were trying to milk the clock, but um, as I wasn't intently viewing the second half, that was a performance I was like, whoa, I did not notice he had that many carries. So obviously you don't want to take away too much from that, but it tells you the Gophers got a ton of depth at that position. He was a true freshman, wasn't that highly touted, and even if it was an FCS team that might struggle against some local D3 programs, that was a good performance. So got to give him credit for that. Defense side of the ball, we saw some debuts from Naeem Parrish, played over 20 snaps, played solid. Um, and Adam Kasai got a lot of run. Jalen Bowden played after not playing last week. And the Jalen Logan Redding injury, what PJ Fleck said after the game, it seems like that's not serious. I would imagine he'll be a full go against Cal. I think that was more just precautionary. But overall, it just they took care of business. A lot of people didn't think they were going to cover the 43.5. They destroyed that number. If they played their starters all game, they'd probably get close to 100. And you just can't look too far into it. It was a glorified scrimmage. It was like a preseason game. This is just how college football works. A lot of teams play a cupcake every year. This was a cupcake. There's no denying that. But you just take it what it is. Gophers were able to inflate their numbers a little bit, and then it's on to next week at Cal. We will get more in depth into that game probably tomorrow. I'll put together a video, but I appreciate you guys for listening. And as always, make sure you leave a comment, subscribe, like the video, helps us get found. Check out our written content over on Gophers, Twins, Vikings, and Timberwolves on SI, and bring me the sports for some more Minnesota coverage. But as always, appreciate you guys for listening, and until next time.